So recently I visited one company, very big company, and the company is also implementing TPM at the vendor side to improve the process, to improve the quality, to improve the working condition of the workers. So many companies are now treating vendor not as a separate entity but part of the company, and they are sharing the knowledge, they are sharing the experience, and this way they are trying to improve the process at the vendor side also. So you rightly pointed out. Yes, sir. Your view, sir.
So the ecosystem itself has undergone change, and it's not going to undergo more changes in future as the number of freelancers, contractors, agencies, all of these things increase. You take a movie industry, for example, it's going to become like that probably. It's a joke saying that for a certain movie, the actor, cameraman, everyone gets together for a certain projects, and after that they all disperse. Okay. So what's going to happen now is that you have to treat essentially vendors as a part of your extension. I mean, it's an extended ecosystem only. So the compliances and processes have to extend and be very well defined and be extended across the length and breadth of the system. And that is becoming more and more mandatory. Take, for example, GDPR. I'll talk now a little bit from cybersecurity perspective. GDPR of Europe. It clearly states that if supposing some bank there has outsourced some processes, some of its banking services to a company here, let's say Infosys, and those people in turn have given to some subcontractors or anything like that. It clearly states that in the court of law, in European court of law, the entire chain is liable in the court of law. Okay. All the vendors, suppliers, all their sub-vendors, they cannot, nobody in the middle can wash their hands off saying that, oh, somebody breached the data. I didn't do it. And there was some breach, though we have a contract. The whole lot will be dragged to the court of law. So that is what is going to happen now. And there are stiff fine penalties imposed. For example, DPDP Act, of all the civil and criminal procedure codes, the highest ever fines are reserved or being imposed for breach of personal data. So 250 crores straight. And if they found in the incident that there are multiple breaches, it jumps to 500 crores straight. So with that, what happens is all the people, they don't care whether you have suppliers, vendors and all that, you can get your things. At the most, you can avoid some stiff this thing saying that, look, there was no negligence on my part, I have an ISO certification or something like that. But the vendors have to be made part of the whole game, and you are responsible for actually tightening all the process and be compliant for all of those. Sooner or later, it's going to come out, and there are specific contracts. But that doesn't mean that you can allow anything and everything. All the legal regulations have to be followed. You can't say that, oh, the contract is for a certain rate and all that, because of which I hired the vendor. Let all the regulations and let everything else go to hell. That will not work increasingly in the current world. So it is far better that upfront itself people are proactive in implementing all the things that you would do in the organization and maintain those stringent levels. There is the other risk. I'm talking about the risk, TPRM, third party risks management. Okay. Supply chain attacks. I'm talking again cybersecurity language. Supposing you are a bank or something, very heavily guarded, extremely good firewalls, extremely heavily guarded. So they will not dare to attack there, the hackers. What they will do is they find that you have contracted several vendors who are supplying software to you. Now, that vendor side things may not be as heavily guarded as yours. So they will attack those. And attached to the software will be a malware which will sail happily into your organization. This is the biggest risk now that has happened, and it is rampant now in ransomware attacks and all.
Interesting. So you discuss many interesting points, data breaching act and other, which is very, very important. So sir, you came from pharma sector and you have very wide experience, and in pharma quality is one of the most important pillar, and different tier of suppliers are involved. So how you ensure that supplier are doing right thing?
Yeah. So maybe I will come from the vendor side first to talk about, because pharma is highly guarded with the quality and other things. Today, what happens is, it is not that vendor always want to do mistake. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't know that this is the process that needs to be done. So it also becomes important on my side to educate him, because anytime you go back to vendor and say that you should have done this, probably he'll come back and say that you should have told me. Instead of doing a tutu meme kind of a equation there at that point of time, can we own up vendor? Can I build the capability so that the trust is going to be always built in the long term, so that it is not that you're talking about a 1 year or a 2 year relationship. If this is going to be a 5 year relationship, 8 year relationship, even the vendor will be willing to invest into his capability, capacity, or instruments, or whatever it is. It's a two-way relationship. It's not just one-way relationship saying that, okay, vendor is doing like this. It is also in our interest to protect our interest. It is best to train the vendor and ensure he comes up to the standard. And what I've observed, India is in the cusp of a transformation. There are small MSMEs which are there across in various industries. Not everybody is well educated about all these things, whether you're talking about a GDPR or in a tech industry with respect to data protection or a privacy, or with respect to quality requirements of a US FDA or Brazil visa. Nobody knows that. Maybe they are not well trained. So the moment you start doing this, probably there will come a time saying that you'll have all the vendors who are actually willing to invest, and because it's in his interest, because he want to run his business and run his shop for longer period of time. If he is not going to do it, next very moment the contract will be closed. He goes back to zero in his profit. Yeah, he will lose the whole business itself. So they are looking also in their interest that they want to learn, eager to learn and stick up to the expectations of the company, and they want to build the capability within the team as well. Yeah, that's what my observation. It's not always that vendor want to do a shortcut, but there are people who is wanting to transform them.
So I'll just probably take an approach on how we look at when we hire people, right? And for me, vendors are nothing but a group of people coming in the form of an institution, right? So when we hire people, you do background checks. You kind of there are a lot of reference, and even when they come work for you, if they do any mistake, typically what your vendors or what we're talking about, you kind of penalize them with the ulterior action, right? So vendors and the mindset to a contractor and vendor is very limited. They only look at the immediate short term, right? There's no path for the long term. So education is equally important, and all the topics of integrity, accountability, ethics, right? So these are things that cannot be taught overnight, right? You have to educate, just like how we educate our employees to be utmost integrity, whether they are a contractor or a full-timer or a part-timer. At the end of the day, in front of somebody else, it's an institution representing, right? So the reason somebody is a vendor to us is because we are buying because we cannot build, because it's not our core expertise. So educating them to be ingrained in our own philosophy is as important as that we talk to our employees, right? So we cannot have a different approach to institutions, people, whether they are on our payrolls or not on our payrolls, right? So this differentiation should not be there. So, and we have to kind of have strong vigilance and enforcement as well, right? So we cannot change it overnight, right? There are people with great integrity. There are vendors with, who look at this as a long term, but we'll have to kind of identify those bad apples fast and look at all these programs to kind of, because ultimately we'll all get hit, the company or whatever it is, because time lost is lost, right? So for them, they just look at it from that particular immediate short-term objectives, right? Because for us, it's a little bit more than that. So that kind of education and kind of filtering and identifying people who match that approach is very, very important. You can be delayed on at times, but you cannot compromise on all these things in the rush of adhering to your timeline. So that's my point or my viewpoint. When I would want to look at these two people, whether it is vendor or employees, or on the same path.